All right, so I just finished gluing on another layer of this. I'm taking the tape off because I was letting it dry for about an hour. And I'll explain a few things because you can kind of see there's a few pieces that are just sticking out. And I'm just going to show you how to here, and here. And which is fine because I can carve it off, and that's what I'm going to do in a minute. But I'm happy about the thickness that I got. I just have some leftover pieces in here of similar to this guy. You can kind of see the thickness is very similar here. And as long as I can sand and soften the edge, I'm not going to get a perfect curve because I remember sanding this and it wasn't easy to do exactly what I wanted to do, but at least I sanded it to a point where it looks smooth. All right, so I think I have it where I want it to. I'm keeping the tongue out at the moment so I can work inside of here, but basically I'm just gonna grab this guy, make my blade a little bit longer, and I'm just gonna follow the line that I have here. And I can kind of cut it like a piece of meat. And then so I just made that kind of curve there. The nice thing about this, the first one, the middle one actually met up with this piece I put in, and then the third one covered both of them, so it kind of made it a little more uniform. Here's a little rough, but not a big deal. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just going to try to. There we go. All right. Pretty happy about that. Nice thing about this, it really made this solid here. So now it's not the most beautiful because this comes up a little bit, so does this side. So I could do one of two things. I could carve, but it's gonna be hard to carve on that turn. So I'm gonna try sanding, and I'll show you about sanding. And then after I'm finished this, all I have to do is finish my little lace holders, which are the green parts. I put those in here, which won't take very long. And then I'm gonna make my laces. And then I'm gonna put on my decals, my Nike symbols. I'm gonna put on the back part, which is this little hook loopy thing here. And then after that, I'm just gonna clean everything up, and I'll probably make a video about how I'm gonna hide some of these lines next. And then I don't know if I'll have time to complete this today to make videos for this module, but at least you'll have enough to complete your project. And again, everyone is different, so you're all gonna have different problems. But let me just try sanding this quickly. So again, I'm using my 100 grit here because it's more gritty. And let's see if I can fold it and just. And I'm just basically trying to make it uniform all the way around. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least it's better than what it is. And I'm sanding this side, I'm sanding the inside, and I'm sanding the top here. And it's starting to kind of curve in. It's doing what I want it to do. That's good. I don't want to sand too much of this because the paper is going to get frayed, but if I could sand on an angle in, that might do the job. So real quick, you can kind of see that it's starting to do it here. It's nice and curved. It's looking a little more flat here. This side's a little more rough because I haven't gotten there yet. There's a little edge here that I can sand down. After I do this, then I would get my 220 sandpaper and soften it up the sides. Fold this the same way. It's just easier for me to handle. And you can even hear it's not as loud because it's smoothing the side. If you have like 400 grit, you could probably just do a quick little exterior part there. And then you'll notice it's just a lot smoother. So this is for taking material off, and this is for smoothing the surface. You don't want to take material off with a 220, it's just going to take you forever. This has more of a grit, so it'll take off more material. Since I'm still making my video, I'm going to jump to another area. So you can see right here, there's a rip. And you're probably gonna have rips throughout. There's another rip right here, which I have tape covering it, and I'll deal with that later. But right now I'm just gonna show you how to disguise that, how to hide it with the materials that we have. So I will use this here. I'm gonna cut off a little slice. What I did is I just cut off a piece of paper, and kind of wish I had a bigger piece, but I'm just trying to. So I'm basically just cutting off a little piece. And then I would glue this piece on right there. Before I glue the piece on, I just noticed it's kind of sticking up in the center, so I'm just going to try to flatten that out with my finger, so when I put the paper on, it will be flat with the surface. So I'm just trying to run my fingernail along it so it kind of flattens out. trying to go with the curve a little bit. I could have used a bigger sheet of paper, but and it's better to use this paper because it's going to match perfectly as opposed to something else. I'm spreading out the glue so it's flat. Trying to make sure my hands are clean here. So if the rip isn't terribly bad and it's hardly noticeable, then it's probably, might be able to leave it alone. But if it's pretty bad, you just want to cover it because you can see a little seam that's still there. I mean, it's not going to disguise it completely unless I take a piece of paper and go all the way down and all the way over, but I don't want to do that. I might make it worse than it is. So I'm just making sure it's nice and flat. And I'm pressing down, and you can even get another sheet of paper. I'm just looking for something here. There, I had some kind of envelope, and you can run your finger on top of it, kind of what I'm doing here. And it will help it flatten out too. Because if you use your finger all the time, your finger could be dirty, there could be glue on it, and you might be making a bigger issue. So that would be one of the things you can do to clean up. I mentioned this before, you can cut out little pieces to, see this little guy here? I'm just gonna fill that in right now. Looks like maybe I can fit this thing in there. Nope. It's not what I thought it was going to be. So I'm just making it a little bit smaller, being mindful of my fingers. See if I can wedge that baby in there. So this is what I call a dry fit, to see if it fits dry. And I like how it's able to smush it in there. Kind of like so, and it fits pretty good. I wonder if I even have to glue it because it's such a snug fit. I think I might just leave it. Well, that kind of worked out. I could also glue it from the inside just to make sure that it's not going to pop out at a later date. Not too. Just trying to push it in a little bit. Maybe I'll use the dull side. But not push it in too much. Just wiggling it. Get in there. Okay, happy with that. All right, so I cleaned up my little rip. It does look like a Band-Aid still. It's okay. You know, it's a shoe. It's supposed to look a little worn. I filled this section in there. I do have a couple pieces, like a little bit here. And I'm wondering if I can take some of my I'm just kind of working in real time. I wonder if I can take something like this to fill in those spots. Oops. And I could glue it in. It's actually not so bad. I could glue it in and then sand it later. That's actually a pretty good fit. So, I mean, just for that one section there. So what I could do is just try to get something that would fit in there. And I'm using the side of this, and I would just try to cover that a little bit. We're just gonna go in and try to plug all your holes, if you will. And then other than that, I think we're good. I'm just trying to make another video towards the end. I still was gonna take a portion of the tongue and add it to here, just to give it some thickness, and then I'd probably sand that off, just like I did here. All right, toodles. All right, so I'm at basically the end of this project. I've got my laces here that I've been working on, and all of this is just I showed you how to do this before, but it's a really thin half piece of foam, and I just kind of work it with my fingers until it starts to kind of bend and become more malleable. It's very fragile and it might rip at times, but if you do rip it, you can kind of see that I just glued two seams together. I taped it so it wouldn't fall apart, but I don't even know if I had to tape it. And you can't even tell, I'm gonna have to cut it off. Can't even tell that it's, you shouldn't be able to tell that it's glued together because it's so kind of rough looking anyway. There we go. So if you look real close, you can kind of see I just glued two seams together and it's more malleable. La, la, la. So I don't think I'm gonna make a long shoelace like this. What I'm probably gonna do is put these together, and if you can see in my shoe, these little green things are what holds the laces, and I just made those. You can kind of see this little hole here. I just kind of opened it up. I just glued them on, so I'm not going to deal with that at the moment, but I'll probably feed it through, and in some cases if I can't feed it through, then I'm gonna have to just glue a piece on and piecemeal it together to get the look of it. You don't have to feed it through as if these were real sneakers. And then you can see I just have a bunch of pieces here, and I can cut them shorter to do what I need to do, so that might just take a little while just to do the laces alone, but at least I got them ready to go. I glued one side of my Nike swoosh on. As I said before, I had to really score on underneath so I get that bend so it could follow the contour. And I put on my little tiny pieces here. I have the other Nike swoosh on, and it's drying right now. And I just don't want to take it off too soon. I took this off too soon because I was excited about how it looked, and I just wanted to move forward. The next thing I need to do is, as I said, laces, but what I want to show you now is just cleaning things up. Clearly I have a couple things to do. I intended to thicken the tongue up, and I might sand it, and if I put another layer on, as I stated before, some of it's going to I just don't want to go in there and do it, but some of it's going to come over it's not going to meet evenly right here. So I'd have to I'd have to cut and shave it off so it would meet evenly. And then I would just sand just to get that thickness, because clearly this tongue is a little thicker. I may or may not do that. I mean, it kind of looks okay without it. But the next thing, laces, but cleaning up, and then final small details. Like here, I'm gonna try to figure out a way. I'll probably just use paper and just maybe like I can clean it up and blend it out. And areas where I use tape just to kind of prevent it from ripping more, I'm gonna use paper there again. Or that might look like a used sneaker. I'm not sure, I might keep it. So I'm gonna show you a couple tricks just to clean things up. As you see, I have pencil written here. And I did see on a YouTube video, and I showed this in a previous video, but if you have acetone, you can pick this up at your local hardware store. It's usually in the painting section. I think this was like $3 or $4 or something. It does have a bit of an odor to it, but it quickly takes the graphite off. This is just a regular paper towel. I'm gonna fold it up like so. It's like you're putting hydrogen peroxide on something. And then see where it says front, I can just take that and voila, it's erased. It's pretty awesome stuff. It's supposed to take off residue, like glue residue as well. So if there's any glue residue, you could try to give that a whirl and just work it until it gets there. But if that doesn't work, I have another trick. This stuff evaporates pretty quickly, so you might have to do it again. And it has a bit of an odor to it, so I would recommend wearing a I call them a breather, but something to protect you from breathing in the I can't think of the name right now. A mask. So you can kind of see that clean that up pretty quickly. And my hands were dirty at this one point, so I'm going to see if this will clean that up here. Not bad. I'm pretty happy about that. Now, if you can't get the acetone and it's not readily available, I will say it's pretty awesome because it's just cleaning this up so fast. I even have written here. I can take that out now. Oops. This ripped off when I was peeling the tape off. It's gonna happen, but I can lightly sand that with 220. I'm just kind of showing you how I'm doing this. So my hands were dirty here, I think. I'm gonna see if this takes this off. Try it again. I do recommend doing this outside if you can, because the smell. It's not as bad as turpentine, but it's not great. So that took that off pretty well, I will say. And there's a little dirty spot here. I'm just kind of really working it. Clean it up. Quite nice. Even a little pencil line here from when I traced. Let's see if I can get that out. Yep, got it. Cool. All right, so we know that works. And there's a little, but what I'm gonna do is cap on. 220 sandpaper, or even higher than that, 320. But 220 sandpaper has just enough grit to not rip the paper, but it can take stuff off. I'm gonna see if I can kind of get that. Yeah, that was pretty fast. If there's something you can't get off with the acetone, or if you don't have acetone, you can't get it, then you can use the 220 sandpaper, and it just kind of cleans things up. And to be honest, it might even help me clean up this little section here. I'm just gonna have to continue ripping the paper. Ah, you son of a gun. Let me go here. I'm gonna stop the rip by cutting it. And then I'll just kind of try to sand and smooth. And hopefully that will be the end of that. Cool. All right, I'm happy about that. So it's really starting to clean up now. And that's basically it. So if there's any other questions, reach out. But once I put the laces on and clean up some of these other spots and maybe put the tongue, this guy is done. Alrighty, see ya.